Dana White just stole Eddie Hearn's most prized fighter, $15 million, done in secret without a single phone call. And the entire combat sports world lost its mind over Conor Benn. But here's what nobody is actually talking about. Benn is not the story. Benn is the message. And if you understand what that message actually means, who it's aimed at and why it happened now, and what comes next, you are going to see this entire sport completely differently. I've spent 20 years building fight promotions, negotiating deals, and sitting in rooms where these decisions get made, and what I'm watching right now is the most important power shift in combat sports since the UFC bought Pride in 2007. It's highly entertaining. Let me take you back to the last week or so. Dana White and Eddie Hearn are publicly going at each other. Quotes flying, shots being taken, the kind of back and forth that usually stays behind closed doors, suddenly playing out in front of the whole world. And then, right in the middle of it, while Benn is reportedly still in active negotiations with Matchroom for his next fight, Zuffa Boxing announces a one-fight, $15 million deal with Conor Benn. Reportedly done without Hearn knowing until it was already a done deal. Now, the internet immediately turns it into a loyalty debate. Did Benn betray the man who built his career? Is this guy ungrateful? What about everything Hearn did for him? And look, that conversation is real. I'm not going to dismiss it. Eddie Hearn stood by Conor Benn through one of the ugliest periods any young fighter has faced in recent memory. The PED saga, the cancelled fights, the years of uncertainty when most promoters would have quietly moved on and found someone easier to work with. That kind of loyalty from a promoter is genuinely rare in this business. Walking out without even a phone call? That's not good. But if you stop the story there, you miss everything that actually matters, because this was never really about Conor Benn. Here's what I want you to understand about how power actually moves in this sport. Fighters are the product. The people who package the product, the promoters, the architects, the people who control the narrative. That's where the real leverage has always lived. And right now, two of the greatest who have ever done it are at war with each other. Dana White is more famous than 95% of the fighters he's ever promoted. Think about that. The man who never fought professionally is a bigger star than most of the people inside his octagon. Eddie Hearn turned boxing into a global content machine. His name opens doors that most fighters will spend their entire careers trying to get near. These are not just promoters, these are power brokers. And when power brokers go to war, everyone in the ecosystem feels it, whether they are watching or not. What's actually being fought over here? Let me break this down strategically, because this is more than a beef, way more. On one side, you have TKO, the company that owns the UFC and WWE, backed by serious institutional money, now making aggressive moves into boxing through Zuffa Boxing. And when I say aggressive, signing Benn while he's mid-negotiation with a rival promoter is not a business move. That's a statement. That's not testing the boxing waters. They're trying to do to boxing exactly what they did to MMA. Buy the best assets, control the narrative, own the entire space, and make every other promoter realize that no contract, no relationship, no handshake deal is safe from their checkbook. On the other side, you have traditional boxing, Matchroom, Queensberry, Top Rank, the organizations that actually built this sport into what it is today. Deep relationships, generational credibility. Fighters who grew up watching their cards and dreaming of being on them. And this is the part I find most fascinating. There's a third lane quietly forming in the middle. Netflix and most valuable promotions. The Ring. Independent players who don't fit either model, moving fast, finding space in the gaps that the big institutions can't fill quickly enough. So 3 lanes, all moving at the same time. And here's the warning I'd give anyone watching this from the outside. The middle ground, it's disappearing, and it's disappearing fast. When money this big starts moving in a sport, it consolidates. That's just what happens. It happens in MMA, it happened in boxing in the 90s. It happened in wrestling when WWE absorbed everyone. The people who get positioned before the consolidation are the ones who came out with real leverage. The people who wait, who sit on the fence while the big players sort out who controls what, they end up paying more for less. Or they miss the window entirely. So let me talk about what this actually means depending on where you sit, because I don't want to just break down Dana and Eddie like it's entertainment. There are real lessons here. If you're a fighter, and I mean any fighter, not just world level guys, this moment is important for you. When ecosystems compete, fighters win. That's historically true. When promoters are fighting each other for talent, the value of that talent goes up. But, and this is the part people always miss, you only win if you build something worth fighting over. Conor Benn didn't get $15 million because he's undefeated. You know that, right? There are plenty of undefeated fighters nobody offering $15 million to. Some people say Conor Benn is not a $15 million fighter. He got it because he's a story. Famous last name, controversial history, came back from one of the most damaging situations a young fighter can go through and rebuild his career in public. He has an audience that follows him emotionally, not just athletically. That's what got bought. The narrative, the brand, the emotional investment that fans have in him as a person, not just as a boxer. If you're a fighter right now who's waiting until you have better record, a bigger win, a higher ranking before you start building your brand and your story, you're already behind. The fighters who are going to win the next decade of this sport are the ones who understand that they are not just athletes. They are characters in an ongoing story. And you need to start writing that story right now before someone else needs to buy it. And if you're a promoter, this one is going to sting a little, so stay with me. Stop trying to own fighters through contracts. Start building relationships that make them not want to leave. Loyalty in this sport is not a piece of paper. We're watching a contract get walked away from in real time, right now, with one of the most high-profile fighters in British boxing. Contracts get broken. We've always known this, but we're seeing it happen so publicly, so boldly, that it should force every promoter to ask an honest question. What am I actually offering that keeps a fighter here when someone shows up with a bigger check? The answer, the only real answer, is career investment, visibility, being the person who made them bigger than they were when they arrived. The promoters who are going to survive what's coming are the ones who made their fighters wealthy. Not just busy, but wealthy, visible, known beyond their wins and losses. And Hearn actually did that for Benn, genuinely, and it still wasn't enough. That's the brutal reality of this business. But it's still your best shot, because when you've genuinely changed a fighter's life and trajectory, most of them remember. Most of them stay, and when they don't, at least you build something real and everybody saw it happen. And if you're on the business side, a brand, an investor, someone looking at combat sports as a space to move into, the message is simple and urgent. Pick your lane now. Not next quarter, not when the landscape becomes clearer, but now. Because the landscape becoming clearer is exactly what you're waiting too long for. By the time it's obvious which ecosystem won, the best positions are already taken. The deals that make sense right now will not make sense at twice the price in 18 months. Understand which model aligns with what you're actually building. TKO's model is scale and institutional infrastructure. Traditional boxing's model is relationship and credibility. The independent lane is speed and authenticity. Those are three completely different bets, and you can only really ride one of them well. And let me zoom out for a second, because I want to give you the bigger picture here. What we are watching, the Dana and Eddie war, the Benn signing, the Saudi money, the Netflix deals, the independent promotions pulling millions of views without ESPN, this is all part of the same story. Combat sports is going through a restructuring of power that happens maybe once every 20 years. The last time it happened this dramatically was when the UFC bought Pride in 2007 and essentially ended the era of serious MMA competition. One organization absorbed the best fighters in the world and became the only game in town. What's happening now is different. It's more fragmented, more chaotic. There are more players with real money moving in more directions simultaneously. And the chaos, the fragmentation, is actually an opportunity for fighters who are smart about it, for promoters who are building the right way, and for brands who get in before everyone else figures out where the value is. But chaos also punishes the people who aren't paying attention, who are reacting instead of anticipating, who are watching the gloves instead of the business behind the gloves. I've spent my fair share of time trying to understand this sport at that level, building fight leagues from scratch, sitting in rooms on both sides of these negotiations, watching how decisions gets made when the cameras are off. And the pattern I keep seeing over and over is that people who win these moments are not always the biggest or the richest or the most famous. They are the ones who understand what's actually being fought over before it becomes obvious to everyone else. Right now, what's being fought over is narrative control. It's power. Who gets to tell the story of the next era of boxing? Who owns the relationships with the next generation of stars? Who has the distribution and the infrastructure when the money fully consolidates? Benn was a data point in that fight, a very expensive, very public data point. And there will be more. If you like this video, you might enjoy my other video where I talk about why boxers make more money than MMA fighters. It's over here. And every week in my newsletter, I break down the business side of the fight world, what it actually means for people who are building in this space where the real opportunities are and where the traps are hiding. If you want that kind of insight every single week, the link is in the description. It's free. It's the stuff I can't fit into a video. And it's written specifically for people who care about this sport at a deeper level than just results. And if this breakdown changed how you're thinking about what's happening right now, hit subscribe and smash that like button, because this war between TKO and traditional boxing is just getting started. Every week, there's going to be another move, another signing, another public shot. And I'm going to be here breaking down a bunch of these moves. So see you in the next one.